clearly stated yesterday that Elizabeth Warren was one of four women that mounted what they thought was going to be a killer October surprise. Elizabeth Warren was going to ride this DNA test showing that she's Indian to blowing Trump up and the Republicans in the midterms. And just like it blew up for Hillary, it's blown up for Elizabeth Warren. She made a serious miscalculation. Exactly what I told you yesterday. These people think they live in their own little tunnel vision world, and they have no idea that they are unable anymore to dominate and create a news narrative. Anyway, I want to get to that in due course because it's not what I was going to lead with today, but I got a Newsbusters story here. Tester for Elizabeth Warren as all three networks mock Native American claim. This is the last thing that she expected to happen. The news media cannot carry her water. Her excuse is too flimsy. What's really interesting about this is the news media has known all along that this is a bogus claim, and they were more than willing to carry it. They were more than willing to promote it, propagate it, do whatever they could. They knew full well that this thing is bogus, and it was nothing more than an attempted political trick, and they gave it their best shot. But she's too stupid the way she handled all this, and they couldn't maintain their support for her. So it's all fallen by the wayside, and with it, probably any presidential perspirations that she had, just like presidential perspirations that Avenatti had. Avenatti can't even get on TV anymore. He's reduced to going on Twitter. Anyway, greetings, folks. Great to have you. We're loaded again today. We got more than I can possibly squeeze in here, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to get it all in. One thing I noticed, it happened right before the program yesterday, and I missed it. I didn't catch this until after the program yesterday. Little Brian Stelter, the CNN media critic, was on CNN yesterday complaining that Trump is in the media too much, that Trump is talking too much, that Trump won't shut up. He is doing great damage to the country. He's damaging the media because he's too available. You ever heard of the drive-bys worrying about too much access? Well, actually, you know what? They don't have that. Well, they do have access. Trump stops and talks to them wherever he sees a pack of them gathered. Now, he may not accept every interview request, which they would define as access, but they cannot say that Trump is hiding from them like Obama did. And Obama wasn't hiding. He just thought the media was a bunch of pack rats that he didn't want to descend to their level. I mean, he knew they were on his side, but he knew that they were fools. He knew that he owned them. He knew that he had the media wrapped around his little finger. They thought Obama loved them. They thought that Obama thought they were cool. They thought that Obama thought they were his equals. Obama never thinks anybody is his equal, especially the media. Socialists and people prone to tyranny detest the media in terms of lack of respect. But the drive-bys think Obama respected them and loved them, but he didn't. So he didn't give them the time of day. And when he did, it was looking down his nose. But they didn't care because Obama was hip. They didn't care because Obama was cool. They didn't care because Obama was wiping out the Republicans, except he wasn't. Obama was enabling the Republicans to wipe out the Democrats, as we discussed in great detail yesterday. And Snerdley came to me today. He said, you know what? You don't even know what you did yesterday, do you? I said, well, yeah, I have a good memory, and I remember what I did. No, you don't know. You don't remember what you did with your watch story. I said, you mean about Khashoggi? He said, yeah. I said, well, what do you mean? You blew up the entire intelligence community excuse or story for having evidence of how Khashoggi died. They were out there saying that they were probably going to get proof of his interrogation and murder because of his Apple Watch. And here you come, blowing up the whole thing, pointing out how it's technologically not possible. You blew it up, and you didn't even know it, did you? I said, well, no, because I wasn't aware they were using the watch as that central an element proving their case. But then when Snerdley said this to me, I had to pause. I had to contemplate. And then I had to consider he has a point. But it was one of these things I wasn't contemplating or calculating at the time. I knew it's impossible. There's no way that Jamal Khashoggi's watch could have recorded anything that happened to him, and there's no way it could have transmitted it or transferred it to his iPhone, which was in the possession of his fiancée in the car in the parking lot of the consulate. There's just no way, especially since Apple has yet to activate LTE service on watches sold and operated in Turkey. So unless Khashoggi had entered the password for the consulate Wi-Fi network on his watch, which I know he didn't do, because most people don't even know they have to do that. Most people who have a watch don't even know their watch will work on Wi-Fi. Most people think they got to have the phone right next to the watch, and 99% of the time they're right. But if your watch learns a Wi-Fi network, like at your home, that your phone logs into regularly, then the phone or the watch can access that Wi-Fi network independently of the phone if you're not close together, but only if you have entered that Wi-Fi network's password into your watch Wi-Fi settings. And I know that this guy didn't do that. I myself didn't learn you had to do this until a couple of years after I got my first watch. I mean, that's how obscure a setting that it is. Anyway, Snerdley says, you just blew up. You blew up the reason all these intelligence people were giving for knowing how he died. You blew it up. Now they have to come up with something else. I said, well, I was totally unaware. He said, well, you should be aware because they're mad at you. Nobody's supposed to, they say Khashoggi was recorded, the events that happened to be recorded on a watch, and everybody's supposed to say, wow, that's cool. And then you come along and say, no, it's not possible. Another headline, you probably have seen this. Associated Press, Trump tells the AP he will not accept blame if the Republicans lose the House. The truth of the matter here is there are more stories today, 2 or 3 more, about the dissipating blue wave. Republicans are to lose control of the House on November 6th. Do you believe you bear responsibility? No. I think I'm helping people. That becomes a headline. Trump tells AP he won't accept blame if GOP loses House. Now, the AP will tell you, well, that's essentially what he was saying. No, it isn't. Essentially, you are misquoting. Donald Trump is not looking at himself as a negative at all. He's not looking forward and seeing the need for excuses, AP. He thinks he's helping people. He thinks he is helping secure victory. It's not even in his mind that they're going to lose and that somebody's going to blame him. This is why Trump never misses an opportunity to talk to the media. It's why he tweets over and over and over again. So now we go to little Brian Stelter at CNN, soundbite number 1. This was, actually it was Sunday morning. I guess I was mistaken. I thought it would happen yesterday morning. Sunday morning on his program, Reliable Sources, talking about Trump.
The president of the United States is the country's biggest promoter of misinformation. And he's been in an awfully chatty mood lately, super talkative, holding pressers and Q&As, interviews and chats on Air Force One. He called into Fox News one night this week and then woke up and called in again the next morning. And the result is even more pollution in the air and on the air. I wish this weren't the case. I wish the fact checkers weren't working overtime on his comments.
He says that Trump's media appearances sow confusion and division because Trump lies all the time.
It's usually and definitely a good thing for the press to have more access to powerful people. But with Trump, the downside of that access is he's saying so much stuff that's untrue that it sows confusion and division. That's what USA Today did by running this presidential op-ed the other day, full of distortions. And that's what Fox and Friends did by putting Trump on the phone for 46 minutes and then not correcting many of the errors.
This is incredible. Little Brian is speaking for all of the media. What he's saying is, how long has the media, we can't find a way to tell people how Trump's lying and spreading misinformation. He's not giving us a chance to do our jobs. He's expressing frustration that Trump is sucking all the oxygen up into the room. Never have I heard this before. The drive-by media whining and complaining that there's too much access. The president's talking too much because he's lying and spreading lies, and he's not giving the media enough time to fix it. All right, welcome back. El Rushbo on a roll. Here is the president himself. He was on Stuart Varney's show, the Fox Business Channel today. And Stuart Varney, in fact, there was a cabinet meeting at the White House today, and Trump made available all of his cabinet people to do little interviews with Varney on the Fox Business Channel. Mick Mulvaney was there. He's always great. Kudlow is always great. And it was a well-structured and presented segment. And Varney said to President Trump, does anybody ever say to you you're doing an awful lot of media? Anybody complain you're doing too much media? Do you like it?
I don't like it. I like getting the point across. I've heard you say many times that the economy isn't covered properly, and it's not, that the economy is not covered properly by the so-called mainstream media, and it isn't. We went up almost 600 points yesterday, and they didn't even have it on the major news. You couldn't find it anywhere. And the economy is doing probably better than it's ever done in history, and they don't even talk about it. And that's because they have their opinion, and they'd like to keep their opinion going the way they have it. They do not treat us fairly, and therefore, if I do the news, they all want me on the news, so I can talk about it myself.
And what about your tweets and so forth? These people that say, we don't want any more tweets. Anybody ever try to tell you stop tweeting?
No. And I don't think I'd be talking to you if I did that. It's a way of getting out the message. Look, we have fake news. Everyone's fake. And I'm not saying you and some of the people on Fox, not all of them, but some of them. But there's so much misinformation being put out. That's my only form of communicating, really, other than having a press conference every hour. I don't call it tweeting. I call it social media. We're definitely getting the word out. We have the greatest economy in the history of our country, and it's not being reported.
There you go. It's that simple. He's the only way he can get his message out. He's not going to stop. He loves it. And the fact that they're getting frustrated and CNN's media, whatever guys say, there's too much talking. The president's, there's too much media. There's too much. He's got to stop polluting the country. And so they're so frustrated they can't stop him, folks. Jackson in the bumper rotation. Blood on the dance floor. With some propofol that obviously leaked. Great to have you here. Telephone number 800-282-2882. Okay, look at this. This headline from Bloomberg News. Mueller ready to deliver key findings in his Trump probe, sources say. Do they think that we are idiots? Special counsel Robert Mueller is expected to issue findings on core aspects of his Russia probe soon after the November midterm elections, as he faces intensifying pressure to produce more indictments or shut down his investigation, according to two, as usual, anonymous, unnamed, we don't even know if they're alive, U.S. officials. And I can imagine the pressure from Democrats to produce something, anything. It has got to be intense. Everything has blown up on him, folks. Kavanaugh has blown up on him. Pocahontas and her latest blew up on him. Hillary blew up on him. Stormy Daniels blew up on him. Every attempted October surprise this year alone, previous Octobers, has blown up, and now they've thought all along that Mueller is going to get the goods on how Trump stole the election by cheating and colluding with the Russians. And when this story broke, that Mueller is not going to deliver his key findings until after the election, can you imagine the anger and the frustration? Not so much with elected Democrats because they know the game here, but they're lunatic, deranged, psychologically screwed up base is probably beside itself, because this is really ball game for this is what they have been counting on. They've bought it. they've drank the Kool-Aid, that Mueller has the goods, that Trump cheated with Russia. Mueller has got it. He's going to announce it. Trump's finished. After the midterms, wait a minute, why? Now, there are two things about this, folks. The rules of this game, which are going to be obeyed here, include that a report such as this from a special counsel will not be released within this close proximity to midterm elections. It's an unstated rule. It's an establishment or deep state rule. And frankly, I'm surprised that it survived. I would not have been surprised. I mean, it's one of these unwritten rules of gentlemanly Washington procedure that a bombshell report of any nature will be held until after the elections. I thought that would blow up. I thought that they would somehow find a way to release this thing, or if not that, leak it if it's got things in it that they like, which the latter is still possible. So Mueller and his buddies in the drive-by media, rather than break the rules and release the report prior to the election, they're going to do the next best thing. They're going to start talking about it all the time, such as this story. Mueller ready to deliver key findings in his Trump probe, sources say. So each day we're going to get references to the fact that Mueller's done. Mueller's wrapped it up. Mueller's got the goods. Mueller is going to be releasing it any moment. They're going to be talking it up before the midterms in the hopes, this is what they're hoping. They're hoping that the acknowledgement that Mueller's report is done will be perceived by voters as the proof that Trump stole the election is imminent. That is what they're hoping. They're hoping that you and, well, I don't think they think you're going to fall for it, but they're hoping that the great unwashed out there, the ill-educated, undereducated, uneducated, miseducated, are going to believe that it's only a matter of time before this report is made public proving that Trump colluded with Russia, and that will then influence the way they vote. That means they will vote Democrat. That's what the effort here is. They will create this cloud of suspicion, this cloud of danger that portends disaster for Trump. They'll reference this each day leading up to the midterm elections. And you'll hear people in the media speculate, oh, it could be Trump will be removed after the midterms. When Mueller releases his report, it could well be Trump's going to have to be removed. The report might, all of this is going to happen to one degree or another. The second thing this tells me is that Mueller himself is waiting to see who will be running Congress before he decides to really end this. Because his report goes to Rosenstein, who is technically his boss at the Department of Justice, and to Congress. And there it is decided whether or not that it is made public. So if the Democrats do win the House, they're going to insist that Mueller not conclude the investigation, particularly if he hasn't found any collusion. If the Democrats win the House, they're going to tell Mueller, we got time, man. We got all the time in the world. Keep digging. We don't need your report right now. We've already won the House, and we didn't need your report. So you keep digging. Hint, hint. You keep digging till you find that proof. Hint, hint. Meaning, since we run the show, you're not going to need any proof. All you need to do is highly speculate that it happened. We'll take care of the rest. That's going to be the Democrat message if they win the House. If the Republicans win the House, well, then it's a whole new ballgame in terms of what Mueller will do and how he will do it and whether he will end it, wrap it up, issue his report or not. But there is no reason other than political reasons. There's no reason for Mueller to say or for anybody to leak that he's ready to deliver key findings. No reason to do that other than to have it used as a change agent in the upcoming midterms. Specifically, Mueller is close to rendering judgment on two of the most explosive aspects of his inquiry: whether there were clear incidents of collusion between Russia and Trump. Believe me, that would have leaked long ago. There isn't any of that. And the second thing is whether the president took any actions that constitute obstruction of justice. Now, Bloomberg goes on to say some things that make it look like they're pretending that there's even more being investigated besides collusion and obstruction, but there isn't. Then they say this: the question of timing is critical. Mueller's work won't be concluded ahead of the midterm elections, when Democrats hope to take control of the House and end Trump's one-party hold on Washington. But this timeline raises questions about the future of the probe itself. Trump has signaled he may replace Jeff Sessions after the election, a move that could bring in a new boss for Mueller. Rosenstein might also resign or be fired by Trump after the election. But you notice here, Mueller's work won't be concluded ahead of the November 6th midterm elections, when Democrats hope to take control of that. Notice every news story is written from the perspective of its impact on the Democrats. In other words, Mueller's work won't be concluded ahead of the November 6th midterm elections, when Republicans could maintain control of that. No, they would never think of writing that. This is out there to create the illusion that Mueller has the goods, and it's only a matter of time before the world is officially told that Trump colluded. That's what they hope to create with this. And the media will be helping, and it will all be to impact votes. And again, if there was going to be this gigantic blue wave that was not in doubt, why would any of this be necessary? Let me take a break. What's next in the stack? I did. It's blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Oh, that caravan. Can I ask a question about this caravan? We got this caravan. Have you seen the pictures of this caravan? These people coming in from Honduras? I mean, it is massive. It's an invasion. It is a flat-out invasion. And there's only one guy talking about stopping it, and that's Trump. And, of course, he's being castigated as mean-spirited and cold-hearted for this. In fact, he tweeted, "Hard to believe that with thousands of people from south of the border walking unimpeded toward our country in the form of large caravans, that the Democrats will not approve legislation that would allow laws for the protection of our country. Great midterm issue for Republicans," and it is. This illegal immigration is what got Trump elected. It remains a seminal issue. The Republicans running for re-election or election need to keep harping on this. But my question about this caravan: who is feeding these people? They have to eat. This is a long walk. This is the Honduran version of Trail of Tears, right? Who is feeding these people? Where are they bathing? Where are they showering? They've been doing this for a week now. They are coming here ostensibly to escape poverty. Well, who is feeding them along the way? Who is providing, hygienic services? Where are all these people going to the bathroom? Somebody has to have planned for this. This kind of thing as a spontaneous combustion type event. They wouldn't have made it this far if there weren't somebody feeding them and if there weren't services for them along the way. And I want to know who's behind it.
Nothing.
Okay, we're going to start on the phones here momentarily. I need to issue a brief apology. We lost DittoCam video feeds shortly after the end of the first segment. And the reason is that they think my energy here might have blown out the circuitry, necessitating a reboot. We were only down for, 5 minutes max? Not even that. We know when it goes down on our own because we have warning systems, early warning systems emergency services warnings. So we know. So we saw it immediately. It was down. And the only thing we could think of was that I blew it out with the energy level here of the content of the program. We rebooted it. We're up and running now. So the downtime was minimal. Sorry for that if it affected you. Here's Tom in Morris County, New Jersey, as we head to the phones. Greetings and great to have you here.
Thanks, Rush. Thanks for doing everything that you do. Rush, I have 2 quick points. One, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I was a teacher. I just retired. And I have been the biggest Trump supporter out there.
When did your support for Trump begin?
During the campaign.
Okay.
During the campaign. And one of the reasons that I became...
during the primaries or after he'd won the nomination?
Primaries.
Primaries, okay.
Against the 17th. Anyway, I became a Trump supporter. One of the reasons was because he's going to be so good for the country, and he is. And I'm ashamed as a Democrat my whole life that these people aren't happy to see the country doing well. That's what amazes me the most. I mean, I was always brought up that Democrats were fair, and my dad was a Democrat, my mom, and that they thought of the country.
Wait, you thought the Democrats were for the little guy, looking out for the little guy and trying to help the little guy make it economically and overcome obstacles Republicans put in the way.
Exactly. And so I'm very proud to be a Trump supporter, but I'm about to pack it in, and I'm going to tell you why. Frustration is so high right now for not only myself, people in the neighborhood, because you said it before with Stuart Barney. He said to Trump, why do you tweet? And he says, it's the only reason, it's the only way I can get my message out. Well, his tweets are good, but not that many people really hear it. And I can't understand why he does not address the nation. I don't understand it.
Wait a minute. When you say pack it in, you mean you're about to abandon Trump?
Not abandon Trump, but I'm really losing a lot of energy and frustration. I really am, because so many people don't know the good things that are happening. They're not going to learn. You're preaching to the choir with your tweets most of the time. And the press conference, they skew anyway. So if he addresses the nation, and he should be proud of what he's done. This is the greatest time economically that I can ever remember, and I'm 66. I can never remember anything like this.
It is amazing. But, you said something here I want to circle back to something you said about an observation you've made of the modern-day Democrat Party, that they don't seem to be happy right now the country's doing well. They don't seem to be encouraged or want to be included in it. They don't want to even try to get some of the credit for the country doing well, and that shocks you, right?
Not anymore. It did a year and a half ago. But I'm starting to realize they don't care about the country. They really don't. They care about social issues. They care about taking this guy down, who I think is the strongest guy since Reagan I've ever seen. How he can take these bullets day after day. I mean, he's Teflon, this guy.
Well, your frustration is noted, and I think it's shared by a lot of people. What you're really... You made it sound like your frustration is with Trump because he won't do a national address and try to reach people that his tweets don't reach, or audiences that he doesn't reach. But your real frustration, thus, is with a news media, and many people are in the same boat, who are doing their best to hide all of that and make sure people don't know it.
Mm-hmm. It's a joke. I mean, it's the frustration. I've never been so frustrated in my life. I can't it baffles me. It baffles me how the country's doing so well, and so many people are going to go out and vote, and they have no idea. They hear a newscast and they vote.
Why do you think that you are alone? Why do you think you're one of the few people that realize how great the country's doing? If you figured it out, why do you think more people haven't?
Well, I listened to you. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah, but the economy, you said you've never seen anything like this in your life. You don't need me to tell you the economy's doing well. You see this on your own.
3.7 unemployment? Are you kidding me? With all the jobs and all the wages going up? Well, I've never seen anything like that.
My point is, I think you can be a little confident that you're not alone in seeing all of this, and that more people are aware of it than you may know. And, of course, you could be, it'd be understandable if you fear people don't know, because the media is doing everything they can to hide it, or even worse, lie about it. and you are of the impression that most people get their knowledge, information from the media. But I think what happened with Elizabeth Warren here, they could not carry this October surprise. They could not cover for the fact that she's bogus. They used to be able to do that. They're not able to. There's a reason for that. And I think it's also helping get the truth out about Trump's achievements. So we take There's a reason for that, and I think it's also helping get the truth out about Trump's achievements. So we take El Rushbo at EIBnet.us. I'm getting some emails asking me about TV interview. Yes, Sean Hannity is bringing his crew here. They're going to be flying down tonight after finishes his 9 p.m. show on Fox. And they'll be setting up shop here, and we're going to do, I think, an interview tomorrow morning prior to this program that's going to air tomorrow night on Fox. I think it's most of the hour. I'm not sure. Depends on how it goes. If I blow it, maybe only a segment or two. But if I'm on and have a good day and get some decent questions, then it could go for the whole hour. Sean's going to bring the Commie Babe makeup artist, Deborah, from the old Rush, the TV show. She's coming in. My niece Kristen is coming in. So it's going to be a festive atmosphere beginning quite early in the morning. It's television. It takes them a long time to set up. But, so that'll happen tomorrow. And I guess Sean's been talking about this, is why I'm getting the emails about it. But that's just to confirm it. Ladies and gentlemen, there's much here to continue on with the themes established in the first hour. Grab soundbite number 26. I referenced this. This is Donna Brazile. She was on Fox today with Bill Hemmer. Now, normally Donna Brazile occupies a chair over at CNN. But when it was discovered that she was funneling town hall questions to Hillary Clinton in advance of a town hall telecast on CNN, I think they ended their relationship with her. And then she got her nose out of joint about something, and she wrote a book acknowledging that the DNC was playing a lot of games with the money and rigging the primaries for Hillary, and she didn't want any part of it. And so I wouldn't say she's estranged from the Democrats. She's too important to them, too invaluable, but she has some shifting loyalties here, I guess. I don't think if she has been banished, for example, on the left, I don't think it's ever permanent. It doesn't take much to get back in their good grace. You know what? This reminds me. As a powerful, influential member of the media, I often have access to foreign-made television series before they hit Amazon Prime or Netflix or BBC America or what have you. Such is the case with a series I was made aware of and given access to earlier this week. It's a British, I think it's BBC One, if I'm not mistaken, although that could be wrong. But it's a British network, and the title, it's a 6-episode, 1 hour per episode, miniseries called Press, and is about 2 competing newspapers in the current era, in this modern day. And it's amazing how honest it is about what journalism is. Now, this is not about contemporary events. There's nothing in this series about Donald Trump or Theresa May or anything current in either country. It is a modern era generic piece. In other words, the storylines are all fictional, all made up. And it is about two competing newspapers. One of them's big, one of them's small. One of them is very serious, take themselves very seriously. Don't do tabloid anything. Don't focus on celebrities. The other one is nothing more than pure trash, and it's the one that wins. It's the one with the biggest building. It's the one with the more employees. Their reporters are stars and so forth. But you know what this does? It's flat out amazing how honest it is in terms of what people who do journalism think its purpose is. Destroying people. Both of these papers in this miniseries end up targeting the same targets, the same powerful people, some of them in government, some of them out, or some of them not. But it makes it clear that journalists think their job is to destroy people. Big people, powerful people, rich people, there obviously has to be something they're doing that's breaking the rules, that constitutes breaking the rules. There has to be something. They're mistreating people. They are sexually abusing people. They are stealing from the public dole. They're doing something. And the purpose of journalists is to call them out and ruin them. Which many, many years ago, when I first began to encounter the media as a target, I had a little taste of it when I was in Sacramento. There were a couple reporters at that paper that had me in their crosshairs. Simply, it was liberal versus conservatism. But I mean, I didn't really get a full dose of it until this program started. And I remember talking to some people about it. And they said, you have to understand what journalism is. I said, you mean the bias? Well, there's that, but it's more than that. He said, it's about ruining people. It's about targeting and destroying people. How do you think resumes are built? Journalists in these little medium-sized markets or small markets will target somebody, and if they run a profile or a piece on somebody that can be made to look accurate, that nails them as guilty of this transgression or that transgression, particularly against the little people, then that reporter is going to get noticed. And that's how that reporter climbs the ladder. If you go back to the early days of 60 Minutes, it was all about that. And it remains so today. It's evolved to adapt to the current climate, which the only person they want to destroy today now is Donald Trump. And any Republican who gets in the way, like Brett Kavanaugh. It's all about destroying people. The thing about this series is it makes no bones about it. I don't recognize the names of the writer or writers. I don't recognize the stars. I've never seen them in anything before. I don't recognize the names of the producers. And I haven't taken the time to Google any of them. But I watched this. I've seen 2 episodes so far out of the 6. And I catch myself, my mouth is wide open. It's agape a couple times watching this thing and how brazenly honest this is. One of the editor, the head honcho of the tabloid paper, is one of the most despicable human beings I've ever seen portrayed. Who is not set up as a criminal, who's not established. He's just who he is. And he is totally unaffected by life. To him, everybody's a bad guy. You just have to find out why. His philosophy in life, and the way he guides his journalists is the world has no solutions. Now stop. What if that were your worldview? The world has no solutions. And he's telling you, it's not your job to fix things. It's not your job to feel bad about who you destroy. It's not your job to try to solve problems because the world is not about solutions. It's your job to sell this paper. It's your job. One episode went to great lengths to show how this sleaze editor who has some kind of a secret relationship with the Prime Minister of the UK. No, not sexual. Just they have some kind of a relationship. They not particularly like each other, but they owe each other from way back before the series began. And the editor arranges a cover story about a pedophile and then puts a picture of the Prime Minister on the cover with his picture only an inch away from the word pedophile. Yet the story is not about the Prime Minister being a pedophile, it's about somebody else. So the Prime Minister gets livid and outraged, calls the guy in, and the editor says, "You don't run me, you don't control me, and it was a mistake. I'm sorry." Well, then you issue an apology. I'm not apologizing for anything. If you don't like it, live with it. And the Prime Minister, "I didn't want to do the story in the first place. I didn't want to pose for the pictures." The editor says, "You did." I mean, this guy has no empathy or feeling for anybody. He doesn't. It's just, it's perfect. It's the kind of personality you would have to be if your job is destroying people. No conscience. The belief that everybody is flawed, that everybody's a dirtbag, that everybody is a reprobate, and at some point their time to be called out is going to happen. Nobody's decent. Nobody's worth it. It's amazing how the eyes of a journalist, of an editor. Now, I imagine real journalists are going to look at this thing. Some of them are going to marvel at it and think it's wonderful. Others are going to hate it because it exposes too much. People who've never had encounters with reporters, have never been targets. I don't know how they're going to react to it other than be entertained by it. It starts kind of slow, but it picks up speed. Many of the primary characters are women. The competing editor of the clean paper, the above board paper, is a woman who gets outsmarted and tricked into not publishing one day because she can't confirm the pedophile story, while the other paper puts it on the cover having confirmed it because the editor at the other paper doesn't care whether it's true or not, whether he calls the guy as a pedophile. Just get it up there, get it on the newsstands, whereas the female editor didn't have the guts to run it. And so the paper didn't run. I'm thinking, they obviously are not worried about the Me Too movement here. Never put this thing together. So the name of it is Press. I have no idea. I think it just completed airing because I've got all 6 of them. So it just completed its run cycle in the UK, which means it's going to be on Netflix, Amazon Prime, wherever. I don't know where it's going to be, but it won't be long. And if you remember me talking about it here, and if you watch these kinds of things, it's fascinating because it's not about politics, not about current, it's not about Trump, it's not about conservatives, liberals, any of that. It's everybody. Everybody is a reprobate, including the people at the papers, the reporters. I have to admit I was up. Anyway, here's Donna Brazile. Now, I did not lose my place. She's on with Bill Hemmer today, and they're talking about the blue wave, where she thinks we're headed. And remember now, this is a woman that used to be one of the head honchos of the DNC, of the Democrat Party, who, in her normal countenance, would be out there saying, "Oh, yeah, blue wave, Democrats going to win big. It's our time. People are fed up." But that's not how she sounds here.
20 days is a long time in politics. Yeah. I'm not breaking out the champagne, and I'm not trying to, scramble my eggs before I get my chickens right. We still have to improve turnout. Turnout. Democratic victory depends on turnout among millennials. 1 out of 5 millennials voted in the last midterm. We also got to make sure that we get a pink wave before we can get a blue tide. We need these women to win their races. I'm confident, but not overconfident. If you ask me today, what would I do differently in terms of the Democrats? I would target Latinos. I would target millennials.
Okay, so what would she do differently? She's saying here the Democrats are dropping the ball with Latinos. Why is she saying that? Well, because she has the freedom to say it. She's not at the moment in the hierarchy of the apparatus. And it turns out Latinos are far more supportive of Trump and Republicans than anybody knew, according to recent polling data. The Democrats are stunned at the number of Latinos that are signing on with Republicans and Trump. The reason they're stunned is because they believe that all Latinos should despise anybody who is anti-illegal immigration or wants to build a wall. The millennial thing, I think what that's about is voter turnout, and she even mentions it here. Everybody talks about the millennials and young people this and young people that. It never ceases to be the case that on election day, they don't show up. They don't show up in the numbers everybody thinks they're going to show up in. And every cycle this plays out. Every cycle we're told the youth vote is fired up this time, Mr. Limbaugh. The youth vote, they're energetic, they're energized, they are motivated. This is a new day. They can't wait. And then same old thing happens. They don't show up in the numbers that everybody expects them to. She is suggesting that that may be the case here. The Democrats have failed to light a fire under the Latino thing bothered them. And what the Latino thing, what that actually stands for is immigration. She is, I guarantee you, like many other Democrats, are stunned that immigration remains such a big, positive, winning issue for Trump and the Republicans. And it is the issue. Every Republican running for office, either incumbent or running for the first time, needs to be focusing on this issue. There's no way it can hurt them. They have to be on the right side about it. Let me take a brief time out, continue with this, and mix the remaining phone calls we have on the roster up with all of this as we continue.
Rush is always at work, and
Welcome back. Rush Limbaugh. Half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. NBC News. Uncertainty over a blue wave. NBC News finds Democrat and GOP voter registrations at same level as past election cycles. But the Democrats had Michelle Maibel out there doing a whole big voter registration drive out there. The Democrats have been registering voters in prison. They've been registering voters at the DMV. They've been registering voters at the medical marijuana places. They've been registering voters everywhere. How in the world is it possible that Democrat and voter registration levels are the same as past cycles? The Democrats have been telling us that there's so much energy, there is so much excitement, there's so much motivation, there's so much inspiration that nothing can hold them back. And yet, the generic ballot once again is showing that this massive Democrat blue wave is not as big as once thought. And now NBC is very, very worried. They're worried that something that's not a blue wave may be shaping up here. That's what this headline is. Uncertainty over a blue wave. NBC News finds Democrat GOP voter registration at same level as past cycles. Comparing registration activity from 2014 to 2016 with activity from 2016 to current helps put these numbers into context, but it should be noted that 2014 and 2016 include a complete picture of registration from those years, whereas 2018 only includes registration activity up until this point in time. Well, that's all you need. And if you're not registered yet, the odds are you're not going to be registered in time to vote. So that seems like a little hope. Well, we don't have a full database of numbers for 2018. Well, you've got enough to know. So how can this be? How can voter registration be? Democrats are supposed to be smoking us in voter registration because there's so much more interest. There's so much hatred for Trump. There's so many people who want to fix that mistake. And then a column from the Washington Post by Megan McArdle, trying to help the Democrats, who she believes are morally superior and smarter than Republicans. Headline, will the blue wave collapse before it reaches the shore? What Megan McArdle in this op-ed in the Washington Post is doing to try to help Democrats is saying that the Kavanaugh hearings backfired on the Democrats because it alienated men. And now she's warning the Democrats to stop, to hide their agenda of identity politics until they get into power. She's telling you guys have got to put the masks back on. You Democrats have got to re-camouflage yourselves. She's warning the Democrats to hide the identity politics agenda. Of course, we should fight misogyny and racism, whether or not it's politically expedient. These are important, but the country faces lots of important moral questions. Democrats can't answer them without first getting into power. She's saying to these Democrats, shut up, stop. Everything's backfiring until you Democrats shut up. Hi, welcome back. Okay, back to the phones we go. I'm not through making the point of this blue wave stuff, but there's a lot of, here's a CNBC poll. Do not expect a big Democrat wave this fall. I got 3 stories in a row here, plus Don Brazil about this. Now, I don't want to make too much of it. The best thing that we can say about it is that they are losing confidence. Or maybe they are just purposely dialing it back for strategic reasons and still think there is going to be what I don't think that's what's going on here. I don't think they're able to discipline themselves unilaterally across the drive-by leftist board. There's always going to be some renegades that'll bust out of any attempt in something like this. But we'll get back to this. I need to get back to the phones first. Canton, Mississippi, and Damien, nice to have you. Welcome to the EIB Network.
Thank you, Mr. Limbaugh. I appreciate it. This is definitely a bucket list item for me.
Well, I'm flattered. I appreciate that very much.
So I had a different take on why they're not going to release anything from the Mueller investigation before the midterms. Not that I would say you're wrong. I mean, I don't think that they have anything against Trump, and they don't want it to deflate the Democrats' chances and, boost the Republicans' chances in the midterm.
Well, that would be wonderful and magnificent if that's true. All I can tell you is, for what it's worth, there is in the quote unquote canons of procedure in our revered and vaunted Department of Justice that nothing they do should impact elections. I mean, Comey even cited this as reasons for doing some of the things that he did. Now, I know. It looks like he was doing the exact opposite. Forget what he did for a moment. It's what he said. All I'm telling you is that there is this, it may even be a written regulation, for all I know. But I'm for certain that it is an acknowledged gentlemanly procedure that the DOJ, the balances of justice, the scales of justice are blind. The Department of Justice does nothing, including indictments, that would impact an election. Now, the Hillary cases, they had to exonerate her. Their futures depended on it. Their careers depended on it. And she was a Democrat nominee. They're not going to be in the business of charging and pursuing, indicting the Democrat nominee. Again, citing the unwritten regulation not impacting the election. So it does exist, and it probably is a factor in Mueller's report not being released. What I expect to happen, well, I don't know. What could happen? Since they've decided to leak that Mueller is about finished, since they've decided to leak that the report is imminent, let me get that headline again just to not have to paraphrase this. Mueller ready to deliver key findings in his Trump probe. Now, you know this is going to drive the left literally batty. They're not going to be able to restrain themselves. How long do you think it's going to be before somebody on that side of the aisle starts demanding that Mueller reveal this? How long do you think it's going to be before Don Lemon or little Brian Stelter or Jake Tapper, any of these others, start demanding this? I mean, if he knows what it is, why can't we know? It should affect the outcome of the elections, we'll be told. Think the odds of that are pretty good or not? Well, let's play the game. Let's hypothetically say that pressure is brought to bear. It's not up to Mueller. It's going to be up to Rosenstein and the president, to an extent, Congress. That's who gets the report. What if... I can't see this happening, but what if there is a lot of pressure brought to bear on Mueller to reveal this, release it, or Rosenstein or whoever, and somebody like Trump says, well, okay, all right, if you want to see it, go ahead, and they release it, and there's nothing that indicts Trump? What do you think that does to Democrat turnout a couple of weeks from now, 3 weeks? What do you think that does? That's why I don't think there's anything in here on collusion. I don't think there's anything in it on obstruction because, folks, it would have leaked. There's 16 never-Trump, anti-Trump hate mongers on Mueller's team. If they had the goods, it would have leaked, and it would be leaking right now, and it would be used to guarantee a blue wave. If Mueller doesn't have any of that, then there is no way they want this released before the midterms. That's why they're leaking that Mueller has it ready. They're going to try to take advantage of what they can make people think the report says. And remember, they have 2 years, no more than that, now 2.5 years of steady reporting that Trump and Russia colluded. So in their minds, they're probably thinking a sizable number of American voters believes that Trump-Russia collusion happened. So Mueller's report is ready. It's to be released soon. Create the impression that it's only a matter of time now before Trump is tied to the Russians with collusion, and use that way to impact voting and turnout prior to the midterms. I'm just going to tell you, if this report doesn't advance this narrative that Trump cheated and stole the election, they're not going to want this out before the midterms. You imagine the letdown that would be? You don't know. You don't know how many of your base, common, ordinary, everyday Democrat voters literally believe that Trump won this election by cheating with Russia. You'd be stunned at the number of your fellow Democrat citizens in New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago who believe it like gospel, despite all realm of common sense, despite every bit of knowledge we have that there is no evidence for it, just like how many of them believe Ballsy Ford. Their politics requires that they believe it. It mandates they believe it. If they are told before the midterms that the Mueller report doesn't have this evidence and will not lead to President Trump being indicted on that basis, what does that do to turnout? Now, don't misunderstand. I think Mueller's report, whenever it is released, is going to really be targeted at Trump as an incompetent, as a boob who endangered the United States electoral system with his hires and with some of the people on his staff like Carter Page. I think they're going to fire both barrels at Trump as an incompetent who nearly brought the world to nuclear Armageddon because of his incompetence and stupidity. But I don't think there's going to be any evidence of it. And the fact that there is no evidence is what tells me they don't want this out before the midterms. I could be wrong. We'll only have to wait and see. It won't be long either way. Sticking with the phone. Rush Limbaugh and talent on loan from God. This is Bob in Coronado, California. Welcome, sir. I'm glad you were patient and waited. Hi.
Why, thank you, Rush. My comments sort of pertains to the October surprise, and I was going to ask your opinion.
Yeah.
Next Friday is the so-called advance read on the GDP for the third quarter, which I believe is less data-driven than the two revisions that follow it. And my question is, can you see the deep state dropping in a low GDP number and then piling on immediately with it's the tariffs, it's the tax cuts failing, it's the sugar high economy is spent, and this is what really is happening with all the Trump economics, and it's starting to break up conveniently 7 days before the election.
Well, these numbers would come from the Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the U.S. Council of Economic Advisors. These are Trump people in there. Now, you're right to be wary of career left-wing deep staters in there. I wouldn't put anything past these people. You could conjure up any scenario you wanted, and I would bet 8 out of 10 of them I would tell you I think are possible. So, given who these people are and given what they think is at stake here, so if you want to tell me, if you have an idea that the GDP numbers that come out next Friday might be, I was going to say monkeyed with, but it's increasingly tough to use that word and get away with it. It might have been jimmied. They might be, reworked and so forth to make it look like we're about to fall off the cliff, or at least that this recovery has just hit a wall. I don't know how effective it would be, but I wouldn't sit here and unilaterally suggest to you that it couldn't happen. And particularly the areas you mentioned, they would love to be able to discredit Trump's tax cuts. They would love to be able to discredit a whole bunch of like the tariffs and what it's doing to trade. The problem is reality. The reality on the ground. If the numbers are rigged to that extent, it just isn't going to jibe with reality. And it wouldn't be, I don't think, nearly as effective if something is personal. But I think you have to look at the history of these October surprises. They've tried October surprise in October. They've tried them in September. They've thrown everything they've got at Trump, including during the campaign, the Access Hollywood video. And that didn't work. Now he's out there calling the porn star, who, by the way, is a backstabbing, blackmailing, double-crossing porn star. He's out there calling her horseface. And there are shudders in the drive-by media, S-U-D-D. Oh my God, the president's it doesn't. You know what I find interesting about this? All of these so-called paragons of virtue on the left, where wanton perversion has become normal in their world, and they demand that we accept wanton perversion as normal, they sit there and act like, you don't call women horsemen. But we're not talking about a woman. We're talking about a dual, a porn star double-crossing, backstabbing woman who has tried to destroy the guy with her third-rate lawyer. She's not just an innocent, ordinary, everyday woman that Trump decided to call a name. She is a woman who attempted to ruin him. But for these liberal Democrats, these people in the media to act like people don't talk this way, presidents don't talk. Come on. people talk this way. This is what I resent about this. The idea that they are clean and pure as the wind-driven snow, and they don't think this way. They don't talk this way. What an absolute crock. Simply look at the things they say about us during the course of your average political day. From your Hitler to your Nazis to your this or that. They make fun of people's appearances. They make fun of people's, I mean, their comedy has become literal hate. And then they act like one of the greatest social transgressions in the history of humanity has occurred when Donald Trump uses the term horseface, or when he did not mock Ballsy Ford, but simply repeated the truth about her allegations. I just find it just a little bit hollow, as though take your pick, take your pick. Any left winger on media griping about Trump's using the word horseface, and ask yourself if that media reporter never talked that way. And the answer, but Rush, these people aren't president, and he is, and this is beneath the dignity of the presidency. Well, I know they look at it and think of it that way. My point is, they can try all day long. That's not going to separate Trump from his voters. Now, some of his voters are like, shut up about that. There's so much good going on here, folks, and they don't need to distract everybody with that stuff. But he did. They're also they're not going to give up trying to link Donald Trump to the murder of the journalist in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Jamal Khashoggi. They're still working on that. But I think they're frustrated to no end that nothing they do works. And now I have a story I have to print. I haven't had a chance to print it yet. Just cleared the transom here. It's about Trump's approval numbers are probably much better and much higher than anybody on the left and the media wants to admit. So the drive-by media, being led by CNN and the New York Times in this case, is trying to say that Donald Trump is trying to give cover to the Saudis in the disappearance of Jamal Khashoggi. That is not what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is keeping his eye on the ball, keeping his eye on the geopolitical ball, the national security ball. He's not going to get sidetracked by what happened to a journalist, maybe in the consulate there. He's not giving cover to anybody. CNN's out there trying to make the case that Trump knows, and he's trying to cover the Saudis because Trump doesn't care that a journalist got murdered. Trump doesn't care. You know, it's a pattern that we have here, folks, with the drive-bys. Greetings and welcome back. Welcome, Rush Limbaugh, 800-282-2882. Let me remind you of something. And this is in regards to this whole outrage that Trump called, what's her name, Stormy Daniels' horseface, and her third-rate, creepy porn star lawyer. I have to tell you again, this guy Avenatti, there are Republicans. I should actually say conservatives, never Trump conservatives, who really believed that Avenatti could win the Democrat nomination for president because he's their version of Trump. Populist, hate monger, horribly tempered, and just basically buffoon. I marvel at the perceptions of people who think that they are possession of superior intelligence, and their inability to see right in front of them and to be able to compute common sense. To think that Avenatti and Trump are in any way the same person, and because Trump became president, that somebody as uncouth, unaccomplished, unachieved, rank amateurish as Michael Avenatti can win the Democrat nomination simply because Trump did, boggles my mind. But let's establish the context here. Remember when Trump at a rally was accused of mocking Dr. Balsy Ford? He did not mock Dr. Balsy Ford. What Donald Trump did was inform the nation, people at the rally and people watching it, of all of the holes in her testimony. Donald Trump told people what they didn't know because the media was not reporting it. And when he did this, he was accused of mocking her, making fun of her. A poor woman who's still suffering from PTSD and the shock of having been assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh, and Trump's laughing at nothing of the sort happened. Donald Trump simply took it upon himself to inform the American people what the drive-by media were hiding, that she didn't know anything about the event. She couldn't tell anybody where it happened, when it happened. She couldn't describe the house, where it was. She wasn't even sure of the year, much less the month. She identified 4 people who were there. All 4 said they were not there. She did not have any answer for how she got home, what she said to the person she first met after this happened. None of it. All Trump did was remind everybody of this, or actually inform them, because the drive-bys had not. And that then caused the media to run the story of Donald Trump saying this, because they had been hiding it. They hid it because it was not helpful to their cause, which was getting rid of Kavanaugh. I mean, it's a central part of the story that the person making the charge doesn't have any evidence, places people there who deny they were there and can't remember anything about the event other than she had 1 beer. The media not reporting that. Trump does. The media falls for the trap and reports over and over Trump saying it while accusing him of mocking her. Mocking is not what he did. To mock her, he would have had to attempt to impersonate her. And he did not try to impersonate her. He simply reminded everybody in real world language that she had no evidence. And it was the turning point in the outcome of those hearings. Make no mistake. Once Trump did that and caused the media to end up reporting what they had been ignoring, then a lot of support that was there instinctively for Balsy Ford vanished. She had no evidence. There was nothing to support. People with common sense, there was nothing. You believe her? Yeah. The basis of what? Well, she said it happened. But she doesn't know when. She doesn't know where. The 4 people she said that were there to say they weren't, she became impossible to support and defend other than by partisans. And that was the turning point. And then Kavanaugh came in, and of course his retestimony, his reappearance was a seminal factor. Now the whole thing is happening again. The story was that the porn star's defamation lawsuit of Trump got thrown out. It was a nothing burger. For months, the drive-by media reported that Stormy Daniels and the creepy lawyer that she hired, Avenatti, were going to destroy Donald Trump. They were going to prove that Trump had violated campaign finance laws. Do you remember all of this? And there was Michael Cohen in the mix, and he'd paid her off, and Michael Cohen flipped and has now become a Democrat, and he's offering to testify against Trump. That's how lost he is. But the media invested a lot in Stormy Daniels. Wherever she went to perform, whatever polls she was slithering around, the drive-bys were there, making a hero out of her. Stormy Daniels became a cause celeb even before Ballsy Ford did. And then that fell apart. A judge in Los Angeles threw out the porn star's defamation lawsuit of Trump, claiming it was bogus. It had no merit. So in one decision, the porn star's entire reason for existing vanished, political, and so did the lifespan of her creepy porn lawyer who had already shot himself in a couple of feet by bringing forth charges that Kavanaugh had arranged gang rapes in high school and college. So all Trump did by calling her horseface was call attention to a news story that the drive-bys were trying to ignore. The news story was her lawsuit was thrown. Trump was not guilty of whatever she was alleging he had done to her. In fact, she had been found guilty. The judge that threw the lawsuit out demanded that she pay his legal fees. I said, this makes Trump a big winner again. Here, the prostitute porn star is paying Trump. Who among us can arrange it that way, folks? But Donald Trump can. They were also ignoring that part of it. Ignoring that the stripper porn star had been ordered to pay Trump's legal fees. But when Trump called her horseface in a tweet, all of the media were forced to run the story of his victory. So you can sit there and say that Trump is embarrassing. Guys, I wish he'd stop talking about people that way. It's so unnecessary. It makes it so hard to defend him. Remember what I told you about the way Trump operates and pacing. How his original take or opinion on any issue might make you think he's selling out. But he gets that first take on the record. Media says, wow, it's very reasonable. He said that Dr. Ballsy Ford was very credible, very compelling. Oh, it's kind of surprising. Then, after the passage of time, when Dr. Ballsy Ford clearly has no evidence, Trump says she's got no evidence, and here's the evidence that she has no evidence, blah, blah, blah. Trump gets his news covered. The media was not reporting this lawsuit had been thrown. The media was not reporting it. She had to pay his legal fees. The media was not reporting a big Trump win. And remember, what was it? This woman and her lawyer were trying to ruin Trump. Campaign finance violations and all of that. So you can say you may not like the methodology, but it ends up working. As an email friend of mine said, this is genius at work. Trust Trump. You mean somebody thinks that calling her horseface was genius? Somebody, yes. In an email that I have here, let's see what Democrats, try this headline. This is from thehill.com. Democrats damp down hopes for climate change agenda. What? What does this say? Democrats are unlikely to pursue major climate change legislation, even if they win the House majority, despite a growing body of evidence suggesting time is running out to address the issue. This represents a shift in strategy from when House Democrats last controlled the chamber. In 2009, they're not going to pursue it. Even if they win the House majority, they are not going to pursue it. I wonder why. Could it be that in the span of 40 years, we've now had the fourth 10-year warning? At least the fourth warning that we only have 10 years. And in the midst of these 40 years, we've also had reports that we're beyond the point of no return, that there really is nothing we can do. They've tried everything. Now they're even saying that climate change is going to destroy beer. And there's nothing we can do. You know why? Because climate change is going to ruin barley. It's going to ruin the ability to harvest and grow barley. Barley, one of the primary ingredients in beer. Bad news for Judge Kavanaugh, right? Investors Business Daily, Trump's approval rating is better than you think. Some pull quotes. As a matter of fact, Trump's approval rating is now higher than or tied with 3 of the past 6 presidents at the same point in their first terms. He is currently tied with Obama at 44%. He's above Clinton at 41%, Reagan at 42% at this time in his presidency. But there's a broader point here. Democrats and the media keep describing Trump as a hugely divisive figure. But the polls show that his approval is starting to line up with previous presidents. And what's more, Trump's low numbers are almost entirely because Democrats are universally opposed to him. Another pull quote. At this point in Obama's presidency, 10% of Republicans approved of the job he was doing, and that was after the failed porculus. It was after the signing of Obamacare and after the signing of Dodd-Frank and other policies highly antagonistic to Republicans. Trump, on the other hand, gets approval from only 5% of Republicans, and that's where it's been throughout his presidency. So Republicans, in other words, were far more forgiving of Obama than Democrats have been of Trump. So who actually is being divisive? Trump and the GOP, or the Democrats who will hate Trump no matter what he does? I have to think that the drive-bys are fully aware of this, may not want to admit it, that Trump's approval number is really much stronger than it's being reported and is much higher. Here's that story, Snerdley, you didn't believe it. Daily Beast, Democrats fear Obama going soft for the midterms. He's not out there. Not going soft. He's not. It was... You know, don't doubt me on this. During his presidency, he did not like campaigning for House races. It was so beneath the office of the presidency in his mind. He didn't want any part of it. I think there's a bigger reason now. I don't think Obama's confident that he can pull anybody across the finish line, coattails and all that. The evidence is exactly the other way. It is during the Obama presidency that the Democrats lost 1,200 seats nationwide over the course of 6 years. From Salon.com, which is a repository for some of the really inane liberalism that's out there. How long will Democrats keep letting Hillary Clinton dominate the party? Monday marked the one-year anniversary of actress Alyssa Milano asking sexual assault and harassment survivors to share their stories online under the hashtag #MeToo, a movement first started by an activist, Tarana Burke, a decade ago. What this is about is Hillary exonerating Bill. No. Bill didn't abuse Lewinsky. She was an adult. No. Besides, Bill's been far more investigated than Kavanaugh or Trump. No. There's a bunch of Democrat women are saying, when can we get rid of this babe? She's holding us back. You're going to have a lot more of her before you don't, because she and Bill starting this nationwide stadium tour. How long do you think it's going to be before that gets canceled? Lack of ticket sales. They're going to have trouble filling arenas even if they give them away. I'm serious. How long do you think it'll be before that tour is either shortened or just forgotten about? Due to lack of what? You think it's going to... Oh, they'll pay some people to show up, but I mean, it's whatever energy is in there is not going to be organic. I think they've got, 12 or 13 dates on this tour over a 4 or 5 month period. What do you bet that this thing... Remember Hillary's bus tour for health care? We short-circuited that thing in Tulsa.
Have you downloaded Rush's radio show app?
Meeting and surpassing. I mean, going way beyond audience expectations every day. Your guiding light, Rush Limbaugh, a household name in all 4 corners of the world, where people do indeed listen. We'll go back to the phones to Long Island. Michael, great to have you, sir. Hi.
Hi, how are you? It's a pleasure. Growing up in New York City, lifelong Democrat till Obama's first term, between his corruption and just impotence, I started to walk away. And actually, you helped me out. Daily reading of transcripts of your show, coming home on the railroad every day, turned me into a conservative. So thank you.
Wow. I'm flattered. Thank you.
Basically, just wanted to say to everybody out there, this is very important. Unfortunately, I'm in a very blue House and Senate district. I'm voting, of course, but if you live in a district that is close, you got to get out and vote because the alternative is just horrible. And I compliment you for keeping people focused. Make sure as we get through the next 3 weeks that they are focused in and voting Republican and voting conservative, because the alternative is just going to be totally ridiculous. People will regret for decades.
I am still in the process of preparing two alternatives. What would it be like today if Hillary had won, and what will it be like if the Democrats retake the House? I think that's the best way to go about this, rather than just, folks, you got to vote. Remember to go out there and. Let me ask you a question about that.
Sure.
You're on this program. This program is tailored, and it has the audience it has. Do you really think the people in this audience, or let's say the Fox News audience, do you think they really need to be reminded to go out and vote?
Unfortunately, I think some do, because October surprises, maybe Trump will do some sort of tweet, as you had mentioned earlier, that might be lacking, tone or judgment in some people's opinion that might change them last minute. But, the vast majority obviously are going to vote Republican. But, just keep it out there. Just keep reminding them of what the alternative is if somehow they decide they're on the fence all of a sudden.
Well, I try not to do much differently. I try to just be consistent all the time, year round, and so forth. I kind of, when I look at vote turnout in an election like this, I like to assume, that's why I asked you, I like to assume that the audience of this program is fully aware and up to, just like you are. I think you're typical of people in this audience. You're here because you're concerned. You're here because you're educated and informed and involved and invested in an outcome. I think most of the people in this audience are, and exceptions, obviously. So I worry that it's somehow talking down to people to, now remember, you got to get out there and vote. You don't want the Democrats running the House. Well, people already know that. In other words, I'm looking for different ways to accomplish the same motivation. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a question. I continue to get emails about the so-called Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. My question is a really rather simple one. Where was this concern for our ambassador and 3 other men brutally murdered in Benghazi? Somebody explain that to me. You realize how much attention is being paid to what? But has it been confirmed? Has something happened since this program? Has it been confirmed that Khashoggi was murdered by the 15 hitmen from Saudi Arabia? Has it been confirmed? Not confirmed, so it's still likely or thought to. And the story is that it took him 7 minutes to die, that they dismembered him alive, at some point gave him drugs to knock him out, and then they listened to music while they did all of this. And, of course, until I blew up the theory that the Apple Watch contained the evidence, they were going to try to make it look like proof existed in the form of audio recordings. Khashoggi knew what was in store for him, and he had finagled his Apple Watch to record the stuff, and somehow on his iPhone. That very, very unlikely, because of it being technologically impossible, barring just only 2 exceptions that I would have a tough time believing Khashoggi even knew to do or how to do. But all of this concern, and remember Hillary Clinton, when repeated questions were asked about how in the world 4 Americans were allowed to be murdered in Benghazi with no assistance, and Hillary Clinton's reaction, what difference does it make now? She said in frustration. Does anybody see a disparity here in proportion? Now, of course, we all understand why. The Democrats seriously believe they have a way of blaming Donald Trump for this. CNN all afternoon has tried to make it look like that Trump knows the Saudis did it and is trying to provide them cover. It's despicable, the graphics that they are using to try to make that case. But I think there's a lot of proportionality missing here. And again, I don't think the media realizes how obvious their subterfuge is to people now. Anyway, every home has a front door with a lock on it. Dr. Balsey Ford's home had two doors. Did you know that? Dr. Balsey Ford had 2 doors. It's something to do with claustrophobia and fear. It had to do with Google employees renting this. Wait a minute, it was a 500 square foot place. It had 2 front doors. There were Google employees going back, and they had their own separate front door. Oh, well, that's a big difference than needing it for claustrophobia and PTSD, like being afraid Kavanaugh was going to show up at any moment in the last 35 years. Well, anyway, everybody has a home with a front door and a lock on it. Most people have 1 front door. For some people, that's all they need to feel secure. For others, securing every door and every window is what's important to feel safe inside. Now, how you go about securing all of those entry points, now that's another thing. Early home security system providers gave you one solution, and it was fairly expensive. And then Simply Safe Home Security came along, offering a solution to protect all of your doors and windows in the most effective of ways for far less money. And they get that done by using state-of-the-art technology in the systems they make. They use Wi-Fi, folks, to connect all of these components together. The sensors in the doors and windows, the HD cameras, the motion detectors, the glass break sensors, all of that. They communicate with the primary base station in the house by Wi-Fi. So there aren't any wires to run. That is so important, so crucial in making this less complex, less of a problem, and it makes it much harder to hack it. I mean, cutting wires is easy, but disrupting Wi-Fi connections takes a little bit more work. They use Wi-Fi. And they use computer chips in their sensors and detectors and the HD cameras that come with every system that sends signals when doors and windows are opened. And if you've armed your Simply Safe system, as you've left the home, you get a notification when there is activity, i.e., somebody's tried to break in or there's a fire or something. Simply Safe pays attention to every detail of their home security system so that when you do the installation, it's simple and actually fun to do. And when you finish, you will have an intimate knowledge and awareness of your system. It comes pre-tested and pre-configured. All you have to do is install it or get somebody to help you. It's no big deal. You can do it in less than an hour, but don't let that make you believe it's not serious. It's deadly serious. It is serious. It is just as effective and just as comprehensive as any other security system you would get that uses wires. You have access to their 24/7 monitoring system service. That's only $14.99 a month. So go see it at simplysafeusa.com. Save 10% on the system you choose and get a 2-month, a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, you'll get all your money back, and you get 2 months to try it. Nobody sends it back, by the way. Very, very smidgen. simplysafeusa.com. Here's Larry in Huntsville, Alabama. Great to have you, sir. Hi.
Thank you so much, Rush. I'm just an old white man down here in Huntsville, Alabama, who won't shut up.
That you won't. Well, yeah, and so you're demonstrating your arrogant white privilege here.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I was listening to the article from, I believe it was Bloomberg, that they're going to release the Mueller report sometimes after the election. We're not afraid of that.
Yes.
We don't understand that. We don't believe that. We're not going to believe anything Mueller says anyway.
Now, that's an interesting point, too.
I mean, unless he implicates the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton and the DNC in this investigation and colluding with the Russians, which they evidently did, then, we're not going to believe anything that report says. I just don't understand it. The drive-by media just doesn't get it. They're not going to peel us, people that voted for Donald Trump, away from Donald Trump. They don't understand. It's like, the Magnificent Seven. Those guys didn't, when those guys came up there, they didn't check into what kind of Christians they were, or, if they not lived a good life. They wanted somebody to defend them and fight against all of these things that we've seen, which have destroyed the country over the last 8 to 16 years.
Well, I don't think that the media is right now focused on separating Trump from his voters. I think they know that's too late. I don't think that's what their objective here in the midterms is. I think they're very frustrated they haven't been able to. And if they could, it would be icing on the cake. But I think their primary objective now is to flood the zone with anti-Trump voters. Democrats made up of every disparate coalition group you can find. They're trying to assemble this gigantic Democrat Party that is a combination coalition of minority here, minority, just constant, add them all together and get a big majority party. And that's where they're trying to generate the turnout. Because they know they're not going to distance Trump from his voters. So the focus, I think, is on ginning up first-time participation. And that's why this enthusiasm thing is so important, and the inspiration stuff and the anger is so. That's why I think that they have strategically become the party of anger. I think they are using this anger and they're exploiting it to generate turnout based on what they think is a majority of Americans that hate Trump. I think they've moved past the idea that there's a bunch of Trump voters that regret it and can be inspired to show up and vote Democrat. As I say, if they could make that happen, to be icing on the cake. I think you can see the frustration in them every day. You can see the frustration in perusing the news as I do. More and more stories that are starting to raise red flags about the blue wave. And there are some people, Rush, don't fall for this. They're doing this on purpose. They're sucking you in. They're making you think they're giving up. They're making you think they're trying to dispirit you. They're trying to make you think you got it in the bag. No, they're not going to ever pull that off. Not here, not with me. But I don't think that's the case either. I don't think that they would have that much discipline to be able to have media-wide throughout the entire left-wing media universe a disciplined approach to run fake stories about the blue wave not happening. I think it's legit. I have never believed there was going to be a blue wave. I never have. I'm willing to put that out there, and if I end up being wrong, so be it. I'm not afraid of being wrong. It doesn't happen enough times for me to be worried about it. But in this, I have never thought, because common sense does not suggest it. Like I said yesterday, where is the evidence that Democrats have been able to put together winning coalitions and flood elections and win outside of areas they dominate, like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago. They have been losing elections. They have been losing seats left and right starting in 2010. That hasn't reversed. They didn't win with the Kavanaugh thing. They haven't won with anything trying to get rid of Trump. They haven't been able to stop Trump on even their stupid travel order delays using the judges. Trump is succeeding implementing his agenda. There's some things he hasn't been able to do yet, like the total repeal of Obamacare. But they have not been able. If you would think if all of these things were true about people hate Trump, regret their vote, wish it had never happened, regret that Trump is president, Trump wouldn't be getting anywhere near done what he's getting done. There'd be universal opposition to it if the Democrats are right about all this. But they're not right about it. So the evidence on the ground isn't there that there's a blue wave waiting to happen. There is evidence all over the place. The Democrats are frosted and fit to be tied over the fact that they're losing. And you couple it with their mentality that says winning is their birthright, power is their birthright, their entitlement. But elections haven't been going their way. I mean, how in the world? Stop and think. If all of this that they're saying is true, Hillary would have won in the first. Trump would have never won in the first place. If all this talk of a blue wave right now is true. They thought they had it in the bag in 2016, and they were revved and energized, too. There wasn't any talk of Democrats not turning out back then. Anyway, I'm a little long. Next segment's going to be short. Apologize for that. Now. It looks like the Fed has raised interest rates. That's designed to slow down the economy. I'm watching now. Alan Greenspan is on Fox. Trump has blasted the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, over the increased interest rates. Has it been official? Has it happened? Or is this reacting to a rate increase of... I haven't seen it yet, but I'm just looking at the headline. Folks, imagine how good life can be for freshman college students this fall. Everybody's now on campus. They're settled in. Class schedules have been figured out. Plenty of school spirit to go around. Now, on the campus at Hillsdale, the newer students are discovering what the older students have learned. Their voices are not just heard, but encouraged in classrooms and lecture halls. You know, I have people, Rush, why is Hillsdale so different? You know, in a nutshell, you know what? One of the big reasons is they don't take any federal money. There is not a single soul outside of the Hillsdale faculty telling them what they can and can't do in the way they educate. But if you take any federal money for any reason whatsoever, then you have to go along with curriculum suggestions, and they can put a dampering on it. Look at what's going on at Harvard. You know, Harvard's in a mess right now. We did the morning update on this today. If Harvard actually let the highest scoring students in every year on merit, 49 to 50% of the Harvard student body would be Asians. Well, Harvard can't do that, so they're using affirmative action, and they're limiting the number of Asians we can get in, who are now suing Harvard. Hillsdale doesn't have these problems because they don't take any federal money. They're not bound by this stuff. As such, they can focus on education. They can focus on their curriculum and what they want to teach. And that is exactly what they do. They don't take a dime of federal money. They want to focus on the founding of America, the founding documents, Constitution, Federalist Papers, Declaration of Independence. And Hillsdale is proving you don't need a dime of federal money to operate and run a good university. They're self-sufficient, and that empowers them to choose the curriculum they think is best for students. It's been that way for a long time now. You can stay up to date with Hillsdale and how they operate at a website they've made just for you to be able to do that and to get their online courses, El Fribo. It's rushforhillsdale.com. That's simple. rushforhillsdale.com.
Rush Limbaugh, simply brilliant on the EIB network.
Well, I had hoped to get another call in, but we were unable to do it. We're just not enough time here to be fair with another caller. So Now, tomorrow, folks, Sean Hannity is going to be here in the morning, and we're going to be taping an interview. I'm now told it's the whole hour for tomorrow night. That depends. If I have a lousy interview, he'll only, win a segment, maybe a segment and a half. Depends whether I have a good day or not. You never know when you do these things. Odds are it's going to be fine. But that's not going to leave a whole lot of show prep time for tomorrow's show. So it ought to be fun and spontaneous. See you then.